I gotta think of a good intro, man. All right, I got it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another pod. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Boardman and Don't Get Paid podcast. I'm your host for tonight, Yash Varma, and here with me is Dhruv Sharma and Lawrence Hu. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. This week we'll be recapping our Week 8 lineups and giving you a early breakdown of what you can expect for Week 9. So let's get right to it. I feel like it was a pretty rough week for us all in cash. Dhruv, how about you go over your lineup?
Yeah. So the Week 8 was not a favorable week for I think the entire Boardman crew. But you know what? It happens. But we're not gonna run away from it. We're gonna own up to it, and we will bounce back this upcoming week. So for my cash lineup, I had Deshaun Watson, which was probably my lone good call of the week. I think he was one of the top scoring quarterbacks, if not the top scoring one. For my running back positions, I had Leonard Fournette, Chris Carson, and Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray was really good. Fournette and Carson did okay. They didn't kill me. They didn't do amazing, but they did well enough. Where I failed this week was the wide receiver position. I stacked Deshaun Watson with Kenny Stills, and he pretty much did nothing, and that definitely burned me. And Mike Williams was someone that I was on because of the Keenan Allen injury news, and then Keenan Allen got ruled in, and I thought that Mike Williams would still be effective with how Keenan Allen's banged up, but that didn't work out. And then lastly, Cortland Sutton, who was a guy that I have been kind of taking weekly. He didn't really step up to the plate last week either. And then for my tight end position, I had Hunter Henry. Didn't come close to what I expected. And Colts defense, that was okay. So running backs were fine. Quarterback was great. Wide receivers were terrible last week. That's my recap.
Nice. Lawrence, how about you?
Yeah, I missed cashing in my cash game lineup for the first time all year. Knew that was going to come. Hate that it came by the way of me missing out by 1 point. Took 158 to cash. I had a 157.12.
Oh, man.
And it was just very, very unfortunate. I thought I had a decent team, but I guess I could have had a better team if I just made a couple of different decisions. So yeah, I played Ryan Tannehill at QB. I didn't really want to play Tannehill. I really wanted to play Deshaun Watson, but I really couldn't find the salary to get to there. So I played Tannehill. I thought Fournette, you played in cash. Fournette and Latavius Murray, I thought were both smash cash game plays. Like you had to play them, so I played both of them. Where I kind of went wrong was I played Chase Edmonds. So usually when I play cash games, I try to project where I think the cash chalk is going to be, so that I kind of want to land on the same side as the chalk. So if I figured Chase Edmonds was going to be 40% owned, I wanted to roster him because I didn't want to be the guy who, if Chase Edmonds goes off, I didn't want to be this the guy who's being left out. Whereas if Chase Edmonds didn't go off, then everybody else can fail with me, so it doesn't really hurt me. But I guess I definitely didn't project Chase Edmonds right in chalk this week or in cash this week. I thought he was going to be way higher owned. He was only 15% owned, and only 50% owned. Only getting me 3 points really, really hurts. So that's basically the one decision that I probably really messed up. And if I was able to have more time doing research this weekend, probably wouldn't have landed on Chase Edmonds, but it is what it is. I did the same thing as Drew did too. I played Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, and Hunter Henry. Definitely with the Keenan Allen news, I probably should have switched off at least one of them. But I was just lazy. Didn't really want to be bothered with it in the morning, and kind of left it the way it was, and that really did come back to bite me. So yeah, so that's what happened. I played the Jaguars defense, 15 points. Was a good defense. Just the Chase Edmonds play was really the one play that really killed me. And if I was able to go for a cheaper running back than Chase Edmonds, then I would have been able to pay up from Tannehill to Deshaun Watson, and that would have changed, my whole cash week. So yeah, that's where I went wrong. But hopefully we'll get him right back this week.
Yeah.
Yes, we will.
What I hear, you were in Vegas this last weekend.
Yeah, probably another reason why I didn't really focus too much on my lineups.
I mean, I think all of us would take Vegas over daily fantasy sports, but hopefully you had better luck at the tables.
I did not, but it's okay. You know why? Because the Nationals just cashed in my plus 550 ticket tonight. So
There you
let's
go.
go Nats.
There you go.
Very happy for them.
Very
and
nice.
me.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So
what about you? Yeah.
Yeah. So all basically, here's my lineup. As you can see, it's very similar to what Dhruv actually rostered. The only difference is that I went Le'Veon Bell over Leonard Fournette, and I took the Pats defense. The Pats defense, did their thing. They were putting the hurt on Cleveland, and you could tell the first 3 snaps. It was like a fumble recovery for a touchdown, another fumble, and then like a interception or something. They did well. Le'Veon Bell, he sort of just failed me. It was really disappointing. And then obviously the wide receiver is just bad. So, I mean, as you can see, it was very similar to Drew's lineups and quite a few players that you roster as well, Lawrence. So pretty down week for all 3 of us, but we'll get it back in week 9. So how about we move on to our picks for this week? Shall we start off?
Wasn't a down week for me, man. I did well in my GPP lineups.
So Lawrence, since you were, I think, our sole winner in GPP, unless I'm mistaken, Dhruv.
No, I did not win in GPP this past week.
All right, so Lawrence, how about we'll give you the floor. You can talk about your GPP lineup.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about my lineup. Since I usually mass multi-entry, but I didn't really have the chance to because obviously I have no idea how Vegas DFS laws work. So I only entered like 3 lineups. And one of my lineup just like blew everything out of the table. It was I think it was an $3 entry, and I scored 186.72 points. I think I hit the nuts with the running backs. I played Tevin Coleman, which got me 40 points. The Matt Breida injury kind of helped, but playing the Carolina defense helped a lot. I got him at 4% ownership. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about Tevin Coleman for like a last 3 weeks, and finally one of these weeks he actually went off for me. So I played Christian McCaffrey. I talked about him on the podcast how he was going to be low owned, and I only got him at 13%. So being able to get the best running back in the world right now at a 13% ownership, he smashed 2 with 31 points, and then Latavius Murray. I figured you just have to play him everywhere. So those are my 3 running backs. I played them with Ryan Tannehill, and my wide receivers didn't really go off, but I didn't really need them to go off because I had Murray, Coleman, and CMC. But I stacked Tannehill with AJ Brown, which apparently was a wrong stack because I guess I should have stacked him with Johnny Smith, but it's okay. I played Tyler Lockett, who I thought was in a great spot against Atlanta, low ownership, and I went back to Cortland Sutton again. Really thought Cortland Sutton was going to do better. Him getting all the targets from that Emmanuel Sanders kind of vacated when he got traded, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. I thought Sutton was going to be low owned enough and would be able to pay off his salary, which he did, I guess, 2x, but definitely expected more from him, at least more receptions. And then I played Evan Ingram as my tight end. Thought he was in a good bounce back spot. Got me a touchdown. Really, I mean, wasn't amazing, but definitely paid off his salary. And then I guess what really hurt me was the Bills defense. And like that one kind of sucked because I was like in really bad weather, and I guess Carson Wentz just kind of really took advantage of that too. So I really thought I had a good play with the Bills, a low ownership, but I guess not. But yeah, still really good lineup for me. I actually cashed two out of my three lineups, which kind of negated all my cash game losses. So I was only down about $20 for the week, which is for me pretty good considering I really didn't spend much time on DFS research. So hopefully we can all get it back this week.
For sure. Nice. Yeah. So I actually looked at my lineups for last weekend. There was one GPP lineup that cashed for me. So I'll go over it real quick because one of the picks that was responsible for this win I'd actually made on the pod last week. So I kind of just want to
let's hear it.
show it out. So here it is. So as you can see, Mike Evans really stands out as one of the plays of the week. He had almost 46 fantasy points and he just went off. I also made sure to stack him with Jameis Winston. Those two were definitely solid picks, and I got them both at pretty low ownership. As far as the other picks, I had Carson, Sutton, Williams, and Henry, which were coincidentally my cash game picks, and obviously they didn't do well. So I'll just move on from them. My second running back was James White. I had called him out as a potential play, and I think he basically had what Lawrence had predicted. He had his floor ceiling game, 12 points. That's basically what he's been scoring this entire season. And then at my flex spot, I had a Saquon Barkley, just because I had a lot of cash left over, and he had a pretty good game. He almost put up 30, but the wide receivers and tight ends, the people that I played, they definitely just kind of killed my lineup. And my defense was a Chargers defense. They got me 9 points. Wasn't that bad. They didn't give me negative points at least, or 1 or 2. So I was pretty happy with that. But I think, this lineup was basically carried by Winston and Evans. So I think everyone here wishes that those players that we all played did well, but at least I got some money out of it. So
yeah, I think that's basically been the theme this year is those wide receivers, man. It's just been so hard to peg them this year.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always up and down. It's pretty tough. Drew, if you want to go over yours, or
sure. It's not one that cash, but we could still go over it real quick. So
give a quick breakdown.
Let's see. For my GPP lineup, my main lineup, I took Ryan Tannehill. I think he hit value, so that was fine. I had Marlon Mack, which is the guy that I was on the podcast. He had about 2.5x, which isn't terrible, but it's not the greatest. I also had David Montgomery, which was probably my best pick of the lineup. Hit about 6x. 27 fantasy points at 4,400. I think this was probably his best game of the season. So that was a good pick.
This is definitely his best game of the season.
Yeah, and you would know because you have him in every single fantasy league.
Somewhere. Yep, and I benched him in almost every one too. So I do know very well.
Then I had DeAndre Hopkins, who did okay. 25 fantasy points. You want him to hit 30, but that's solid. Tyler Lockett, 19 at 7K, which is fine. Where this lineup didn't do well was John Brown. Didn't even hit twice value. Didn't even 2x against the Philadelphia secondary, which was not expected. So that was a bummer. Darren Waller didn't have a great game. He only had 2 catches. He was my tight end pick, and he did not have a good game at all, so that was a disappointing pick. And then I also had Corey Davis, which was my stack with Ryan Tannehill, and he only had 2 catches as well. So pass catchers, man, they are brutal this year.
They're very hard to predict for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully this week will be better.
Yep. All right. So now that we got our recaps done, let's say we move on to week 9 and check out our cash picks. So, Lawrence, how about you give us a first pick for cash? Who are your quarterbacks you're targeting?
Well, I think right now there's only really two quarterbacks I can really see in cash that I'm probably gonna go to, maybe three. Uh, and there's a fourth one, but I think his price kind of puts him out of the question for me. So right now I think it's either Jameis Winston or Derek Carr. I think those prices are definitely reasonable for cash because usually I like paying down on my quarterbacks. Derek Carr is only 5,500. He gets to play against Oakland, and then Jameis Winston is only 6,100. And he gets to play against Seattle. And then the other two QBs like that, I think you can play in cash are the QBs that they're facing, which are Matt Stafford and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's price is definitely feasible at only 7,100. I think you can definitely get there against some Tampa Bay secondary. But Stafford is priced all the way up to 6,800, and I understand that he's in a really good spot. I just don't know if I'm going to be willing to pay that much for Stafford in cash. So I might stick with the first three that I mentioned.
Nice. I mean, you actually took my cash picks, and they were actually Matt Stafford and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
They're both in juicy positions, and so I mean, yeah, that's basically it for my cash picks. Drew, do you have any difference?
Personally, I won't be playing cash this week, but I think you can't go wrong with Jameis Winston this week, unless there's some weather issue out there in Seattle. But that's looking like a really good spot for him in both cash and GPP.
Yeah, it's gonna be cold. I don't know if there's any cold weather stats for Jameis Winston, but yeah. And like you said, you like Stafford. You don't think 6,800 is too much for Stafford? Yeah, sure.
It may be, but he's shown to have kind of pretty good games the last two games against the Giants and the Vikings. I feel like this game is going to be a shootout. He could be a little pricey. I wasn't leaning towards Winston and cash just because he could be a little bit volatile, but I kind of like him as a GPP play just because Seattle has like a poor secondary. The only thing I'm worried about is the 12th man. So if I'm like, I may just play it safe and just pay up a little bit more and just take Stafford as my cash QB.
All right.
But I definitely do like Winston and Carr.
Yeah, we got two non-Raiders fans agreeing on Carr, so
that's got to mean something.
Yeah, well,
that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
No Carr for you, Drew.
No, I think that's fine. Also, I think personally, I'd rather take him in GPP though. But that's if you want to go there in cash, go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Drew, you're avoiding cash this week.
Yeah. Other than my head-to-head matchup in Lake's league. Shout out to Lake getting married this weekend. Congrats, brother. But yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congrats.
If he listens.
Yeah. But that's the only cash game lineup I'll be making this weekend. Just the league.
Okay. Lawrence, how about we start off again with you for running backs?
Yeah, so I think you're put into a very interesting dilemma this week with two of the stud running backs priced all the way up that it's very hard to stuff them both in the same lineup. So normally, like, I think you're able to kind of fit CMC and Dalvin Cook into the same lineup at their prices when they're back at like 9K and 8K, which like really isn't that bad. But now they're priced up at 10K and 9.5K. So I don't know how you're going to be able to fit both of them in your lineup this week because they're both in decent spots. I might lean towards. I think you choose one of them, and I think I'm leaning a little bit towards Dalvin Cook because he's playing against Kansas City. But there's also the chance that he gets game scripted out. I don't know. It's tough. I think it's one of those two as your stud running backs. I think we're waiting on news again for this weekend. There's a couple of big injuries that that we're kind of waiting on that would affect our cash game plays. But I think the biggest one is James Conner. If he's out, like Jalen Samuels is like a smash. You just play him in cash and don't even think about it. He's only 4K. Like that allows you to free up your lineup everywhere else you want to go. If Connor is in, then you're kind of hard pressed to find value somewhere else. So yeah, I think it's looking like a pretty difficult week in cash, but I think those are my main picks, and I think you can spread them around. Someone like Chris Carson obviously is in a. The thing is, like even Chris Carson, I guess he's playing against Tampa Bay, so I guess you go with Nick Chubb, but that's at Denver. Yeah, like I don't know. This cash games are going to be hard. Like I hope James Conner sits out so then I can play Jalen Samuels and one of Dalvin Cook and CMC, and I won't have to think about it at all. But yeah, there's really nobody else that like really stands out to me as like a smash chalk or a smash cash game play. Do you, Yash?
I was looking at Nick Chubb against a Denver defense. They just got gashed by Leonard Fournette for 200 yards. And I think Marlon Mack had a pretty good game against them. I feel like he's a good pay down from Cook and McCaffrey. I also do agree with you on Samuels if James Conner is out. Definitely at 4K, he's probably the best value on the board in terms of running backs. Drew, do you have any input in your cash games or running backs in cash games?
I think personally, I think you can get away with not picking the top two. But again, I'm not touching cash, so I don't know if I'm the guy to go to for that this week. But if I was gonna pick a cash running back, I'd probably pick Josh Jacobs. I think that's a good matchup against Detroit. He's getting a heavy workload. He's getting additional passing game work if he's healthy. First home game in a while. I think he's going to be a heavy part of whatever the game plan is, and I could see him easily getting 20-plus points, and that's kind of what you're aiming for in a cash game. But
right.
Yeah, it's the only one that I can confidently say at the moment, for cash at least.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing I want to add to is basically if James Conner is actually in, then you're screwed because there's no Jalen Samuels that you can play, and there's no like really good value cash game plays. And like you'd really have to consider somebody like Mark Walton, which is gonna be gross, but I feel like he'll become kind of the chalk cash game play if James Conner is in.
You're saying that if you're taking one of the top two guys?
I mean, I feel like you definitely need one of the cheaper guys for sure, because I feel like in most cash games, like if you don't take either McCaffrey or Cook, who I don't like, I'd rather have McCaffrey and Walton than someone like I don't know, like Carson and Chubb. I think for the same salary.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's basically where I'm going. Hopefully, there's some news that'll come out later this week that'll help.
Well, your cheap running back could be Melvin Gordon. He's only 5K, and they have a new offensive coordinator. So
yeah, you could totally. I mean, I wouldn't play him in cash.
yeah, GPP possibly with the new scheme. But
Yep.
We'll see.
All right, let's move on to our wide receivers. So I'll start off first. I'll give a couple of picks or three. So first one, I think Tyler Lockett. He's in a great spot against the leaky Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense. Definitely could go off. Second pick, I'm looking at Allen Robinson from Chicago. Philadelphia has almost zero second defense, and he's the only reliable threat, Mitch Trubisky. And I have a feeling that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot in this game. So I feel like he's a good pick. And my last play, I got to do it. Definitely got to do it every single week, going with Preston Williams.
We're talking cash games, right?
Yeah, this is cash games. Oh, I'm firing up for cash and GPP. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I'll give the justification here that 4,200 finally going up against a soft secondary. I think he's he'll have, if at the very least he's going to have a floor game of 9 to 10 points, and he provides me value if I want to pay up for those running backs. So, got to do it, man. Got to do it for Preston. Dhruv, how about you? You got any input for your wide receivers?
I agree with your Allen Robinson take. I think I would, if Keenan Allen's healthy, I'd probably take him in cash, and I will leave it at that. That will be my 2 for cash.
All right, Lawrence, how about you?
I think one of the Carolina wide receivers is necessary in cash because you're trying to find value this week, and one of them provide you really good value. I think DJ Moore probably has a safer floor for cash games, but Curtis Samuel's super cheap that I don't think he needs to do much to get you there in cash games. And then honestly, you like Preston Williams, but there's another wide receiver on the Dolphins that has a higher floor and a higher ceiling, and it's only priced 200 more. So I don't know why we're not talking about Devontae Parker at all. But the guy's floor is 11 in his last 4 games, and he's had 3 touchdowns. And I think you can totally play Devontae Parker in cash. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave it at those. And I think honestly, if you want to pay up for a wide receiver, I definitely think it's Chris Godwin week at only 7,300. Him and Mike Evans alternate weeks, so I think it's time to pay up for Chris Godwin.
All right, nice. Yeah, definitely agree. Devontae Parker's been pretty solid, so definitely a good cash game play. All right, let's go on to tight ends. Dhruv, how about you start us off?
For cash, I will take Jonnu Smith at 3,800 against the Panthers.
Okay. Lawrence, how about you?
I think it's Darren Waller week. If I'm paying up, if I'm not paying up, then I'm probably gonna play Chris Herndon if he's healthy at only 4K. Yeah, I think that's basically it for me.
Nice. I'm basically going to double down on Darren Waller. He's definitely the number 1 receiver on the Oakland offense, so can't go wrong with him.
Good stack for your Derek Carr QB and Darren Waller cash game if that's what you want to go for.
I think that's a very valid stack for this week for cash, so I may just go with that.
Do it.
Defenses, there's no Patriots defense, so basically, I think Lawrence said this last week, just roll a 20-sided or 18-sided die, and whichever team it lands on, you pick it for your defense.
Give me the Washington Redskins at 1,800. Let's go.
Are you doing top 10 again? Week 3? 3 weeks?
I only have one $1,000 price defense this week, so
you have 2. Was that the contingency?
Yeah, I want to be able to have 2. So if you give me top 40%, I'll go with it.
No, because Buffalo, if it was an actual good offense, I would do it, but I'm good. I'll pass on that.
I just want to point out real quick how much they're underrated, or not underrating, how much they think the Jets offense is trash. Is that the Dolphins defense is above the Titans, Lions, Steelers, Raiders, Chiefs, Bucks, Chargers, and Redskins this week. It's priced higher than that.
I mean, let me give you a stat. Last year when Miami played New York, Miami defense put up 25 points. They had a TD, 4 sacks, and 4 ints. So
it's pretty good
because of that.
Hopefully, they took the Xavier Howard injury into account.
I'll be your de facto host while Yush is gone. Let's hear your GPP picks.
All right, I'll give you 2 picks. My first pick is Phillip Rivers, 5,100. The Packers defense is very solid, but I like the potential with having a new coordinator. There's an unknown factor involved there, and if they open it up, if they let Austin Eckler get involved a little bit more, if they figure out ways to get Keenan Allen and Mike Williams a little bit more open, I think he could very easily hit 20 points, which is what you would want for someone that's priced at 5,100. I think to hit value, that's all you really need is 4x for Phillip Rivers, and he's very capable of doing that with the weapons that he has. So I'll be taking Phillip Rivers, and I will be stacking him with Hunter Henry as my tight end in GPP this week.
Phillip Rivers, I like that pick.
Lawrence, how about we go with you?
Oh, I think Drew had one more, no? Or was it just Phillip Rivers?
Yeah, I can give you one more. My other quarterback. I don't want to copy the cash one, but I think you could definitely take Jameis Winston in GPP also. He's in a really good spot. I'm not going to elaborate too much on that because we already did it, but I think there's nothing wrong with taking Jameis this week.
All right. So Jameis and Phillip. Lawrence, who are your picks?
Yeah, I got 2 picks. I think one pivot you can make off of like Russ and Stafford or whoever the high price guy you're going with. I think Aaron Rodgers is a very good pivot off of them playing against Chicago or the Chargers, who have not been very good this year. Dude's put up 76 points his last 2 weeks, had almost like no ownership. I don't see why he can't go off against the Chargers. So Aaron Rodgers is my first GPP play. And the thing is, you're probably going to be able to get him again at low ownership because for some reason nobody ever wants to roster Aaron Rodgers because it's not as sexy as rostering like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, I guess. And then my last cash or GPP play, I'm doubling down from my disaster of last week when I rostered Mitch Trubisky, but I'm going with Mitch Trubisky again. If it wasn't last week, it's definitely going to be this week that he wins somebody $1 million. He's playing against the Philadelphia secondary. I think he can carve that up.
Do you want a boba bet on over 300 or under 300 yards?
Can I just say he's going to go over 20 fantasy points?
Okay,
that's literally his ceiling this year. He hasn't gone over 20 in any game, so
honestly, I probably won't take that bet because I think he may go over 20 against this Philly defense.
Nah, you got to do it for the people, man. You got to do it for the culture.
We're talking about a guy this year who has his fantasy games of 9, 5, 0.3, and 9.1.
Come on.
He had a pretty good game last week, right?
Oh, no, 2 weeks ago, he had exactly 20.
He had a couple of 20-point games, and it's been alternating weeks. So
he's had 4 games at not 20 though. So
and his ceiling is 20. So it's a pretty good boba bet in your favor if you want to take it.
All right, let's do it. Boba bet. Trubisky gets over 20 points.
There we go.
And for your sake, I hope he does.
For my wallet's sake, I hope he does. Yeah, what about your GPP picks?
Yeah, so Drew already said it. I was going to go with Phillip Rivers, and that's because they're going to move away from this like archaic, ancient offense that Ken Wisenhunt was bringing, and they've got the QB coach now that's going to be calling plays along with Anthony Lynn, and the QB coach is a pretty young guy, and he's had a good relationship with Phillip Rivers, so I think they're going to start getting Rivers more involved. They're going to start getting Eckler back to what he was doing the first 4 weeks of the season. The offense has just looked like trash the last few games, and I think the Chargers front office had enough of it. Anthony Lynn had enough of it, and I think the Chargers are hyped up. Not hyped up. They're pumped up for this week. They had a thrilling win against Chicago, so Rivers at 5,100 at home. Home isn't saying much, but so like going to be throwing the ball a lot. Definitely a great play. All the other plays I think you guys have said, they've all been mentioned in cash. If I was going to pivot off that, I'd probably go with like Josh Allen or something against Washington. And I've said it before. He basically plays like a running back as well as a quarterback. So yeah, that's sort of my picks for this week. I think you guys covered it pretty well. Um, anything else? If not, we can go on to the running backs. Lawrence, I'll let you start off this one. Who you got?
Yeah, so I mentioned him earlier. I'll mention him again, but I think Mark Walton could totally be a play at only 4,500. Doesn't really need much to hit value, and I think in a week like this, if you're rostering CMC or Dalvin, which I think you should, you'll also need somebody cheap to kind of make up that salary. And I think Walton at only 4,500 kind of makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he kind of loses some touches to Balaj in the red zone or inside the five, but Walton's like shown that he has some good chops. Average 4.7 yards per carry 2 weeks ago against Buffalo and 5.3 against Washington, and it's also getting some receiving targets. So hopefully he can find the end zone and pay off his salary this week against a Jets team that's not been very good. And then my second pick, don't really want to go here, but I'm going to go there. I think Le'Veon Bell's in a decent spot. He's priced all the way up to 7,700, which is kind of like the difficult factor, just because that's the most he's been all year, and he's coming off of like I like legitimately think he's gotten worse every week since week one. But I think he's definitely due for some sort of regression, and Miami is like the perfect opportunity for Le'Veon Bell to kind of right his ship. So I got, I guess, the two running backs from the Miami and New York Jets game as my GPP running backs.
All right. Yeah, I like a lot of Miami players being mentioned in this podcast or in this episode this
Sounds
week.
like a recipe for disaster right there.
Yeah.
I remember what happened last time when all the Miami players were shocked.
Oh man, don't even remind me. Don't remind Dhruv. Speaking of Dhruv, how about you give us your running back picks for this week?
So I'm in agreement with what Lawrence said on Le'Veon Bell. I'm not going to say that as one of my picks, but I'm in agreement with what he said. His schedule was brutal prior to this game, so he is in a position for positive regression. I am going to pick Devin Singletary this week. I think he will finally get unlocked. They're coming off a loss. This guy's averaging 8.6 yards per carry. Small sample size, but worth noting. This is like the shiny toy that they have on their team, and they need to just let this guy go. Like, let him loose, free him, let him go off and do what he's been doing and what he's capable of. Frank Gore is not going to unlock this offense's potential. They need to start featuring Devin Singletary, and I think this is the week that it happens. So give me Devin Singletary at 4,700, and give me my boy Josh Jacobs at 6,500. I think he's in a great spot against the Lions. Like you alluded to earlier, I think this game is going to be a shootout, and I think Josh Jacobs has been getting a really large workload the past few weeks, and that will continue on Sunday. And then I'm not going to take him because I'm rostering Phillip Rivers primarily, but in my non-Rivers lineups, I'll be taking Austin Eckler. I think with the new coordinator in place, he's going to get a lot of involvement this week, so there's a good chance he can return to his first 3-4 week performances that he was putting on prior to Melvin Gordon coming back.
Nice. Yeah, I think Eckler is a good sneaky pick. Only at 6K too. Cool. As for me, so I think a lot of the plays that I'm looking at, you guys have already mentioned. I really like Le'Veon Bell against Miami. His price tag is a little worrying, like Lauren said, but I think he'll be a good pick. And obviously the cash plays that we I'd said, like Chubb, McCaffrey, Cook, you could definitely go there. But I think with the one play that I'm looking at is Derrick Henry at 5,700. We just saw Tevin Coleman just run rampant against this Carolina run defense, and I have a feeling that he is a huge back, and he's one of those guys that like he can just go off at any moment. At 5,700, I think he provides great value at his position. He's been getting a touchdown almost every game. So for me, I think I'm going to fire him up. I haven't played in the last 2 weeks, but I think this is a game where he can definitely break out. So lock and load Derrick Henry for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's move on to. Well, do you guys have any thoughts? Any closing thoughts on the running back section?
No, I think that's solid.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think we got that covered. So you had Henry and I guess you only had Henry then, right? I'm just putting this
You
down.
can just put. I mean, if you want, put Henry and Chubb for me.
Chubb. You like the Chubb, eh?
That
All right.
Chubb.
All right. We're good. So this means
So-
Drew has 3 chances of getting wrong this week.
Yes.
But I actually really like the Singletary play too, and I like Eckler. I think this Jacobs thing is just like some fetish you have with Jacobs every week. But I do like Singletary and Eckler.
Cool.
All right. So wide receivers. I'll start off with this one. My first favorite play is I think if Thielen is healthy, I'm definitely going with Adam Thielen. This is a juicy matchup against a Kansas City defense that I felt like looked pretty good in the beginning, but has sort of tapered off a little bit. The only thing I'm worried about is that if it's one of those things where Thielen and Diggs usually don't go off at the same time games the last 3 weeks. So I feel like a lot of ownership is going to gravitate towards him. But I think if Thielen is like healthy and he's ready to play, I'll definitely roster him. My second play is most likely going to come down to either Godwin or Evans. I have to decide which Tampa receiver I'm going to play, but Evans had a big game last week. I think it's Godwin's turn this time. So I think Lawrence had mentioned Godwin and Cash, and he's been pretty reliable in terms of target share and reception. So I may fire up Godwin as my second GPP play. My last GPP play, I'm going back to my boy Preston Williams. You know what? Here, I'll. Preston Williams is both a cash and GPP play for me. I'll give you guys a different GPP wide receiver, and that comes down to the name of DK Metcalf, Seattle, against Tampa Bay. I feel like he's definitely in a great spot, a great matchup. He had 2 touchdowns last week, but he only had 3 receptions for 13 yards. So the majority of his points came on those touchdowns. But I think in this spot, he may get a lot of big gains, just getting some long routes in. And Russell Wilson may, I don't know. He may get like I don't know. I just have a good feeling about him. I can't analyze it, but he may have a great game, and it's just a gut instinct against a porous Tampa secondary. So besides Preston Williams, I'm going with DK Metcalf. That's my third wide receiver.
Cool.
Yeah. So Drew, how about you?
So I think we mentioned some good cash options, which I think translate into GPP. One of you mentioned Allen Robinson. I think that could be a potentially great play in GPP. I think one of the Carolina Panthers, if you can guess whichever one's the correct one, could end up being a great GPP option. And also, you guys mentioned that Seahawks Buccaneers game, the receivers out of that game. Again, it's going to come down to picking the right ones from those games. But I'm going to go away from those picks, and these are my 2 that I'm going to mention for now. I like Robbie Anderson this week against the Miami Dolphins. I feel like every time I see a Dolphin game, they give up a deep touchdown to some type of receiver, and that is what Robbie Anderson does. And I think this is the week where Sam Darnold stops seeing ghosts and he starts seeing, you know, a
Robbie
wide open
Anderson.
ocean. He starts seeing a wide open ocean where he could just, dump it to wherever he wants. And I think Robbie Anderson is going to be wide open, and he'll catch that wave to the end zone. So I think he's in a great spot this week. And the next receiver I'm going to take, this one's a little riskier, but I have a good feeling about this because the Raiders are terrible at defending the slot in particular.
No way.
Yeah, they're terrible at defending everything.
No, I was saying no way because this is the guy I was going to go with.
Oh, are you serious?
Wait, who are you going to go with?
Danny Amendola.
Damn, how of all the picks that you could have picked, that was like my super dark horse pick that I was going to be like, that's my number one smash spot. And I had stats to like back it up too.
Well, that makes me feel better about it.
I didn't figure you were gonna go there though, but
that's where I'm going. I really like Danny Amendola this week. The Raiders have been abysmal at defending the slot because they have converted LaMarcus Joyner strictly into being a slot like nickel cornerback rather than a safety. And he's been atrocious this year. And I think Danny Amendola is going to just run circles around him personally. So I think that's a really good spot for him. So those would be my two, in addition to some of the cash guys that you guys mentioned earlier.
Nice. So now that you stole Lawrence's Amendola pick, Lawrence, who else do you have?
All right, let me hit you guys some stats real fast. 2 weeks ago, Marvin Jones had a 40-point outing. Last week, Kenny Golladay had an almost 40-point outing. In the last 2 weeks, which Detroit wide receiver has the most targets?
Amendola.
The answer is Danny Amendola with 19 total targets. That was my cool stat that I had for y'all, and that was who I was going to go with. So I guess I'm doubling down on Danny Amendola. Like, not the guy I really want to. Huh?
You gave a cooler stat to the people, so it's okay. You can double down.
Yeah. So we're going with Danny Amendola. I think he's due for some touchdown regression. He's got 4 red zone targets in the last 4 weeks, so maybe he'll get there this week. And I was so flustered by Danny Amendola. Now I don't have my second pick, but let's go with Alshon Jeffrey at 5K. I've been playing Alshon a lot this year, and he hasn't really been terrible to me. This guy's like the end zone target for Carson Wentz every time they're near the red zone. I think the Eagles receivers, nobody can get separation. Like Zach Ertz just looks slow this year. To be fair, Alshon Jeffrey's not the fastest person, but at least he can still jump, and he gets the jump balls when they're near the end zone. And Jeffrey's only 5K against a Chicago defense that really hasn't been that great as of late.
Hashtag revenge game.
It is a revenge game. I believe in revenge games more in football than I do in basketball. Just because now, like, I feel like there's a reason for Carson Wentz to want to throw it to him. And last year, Jeffrey put up 6 receptions for 82 yards against a much, much tougher Chicago defense. So yeah, Jeffrey and Amendola are my 2 value wide receiver picks for this week. And my 1 pay up pick, I talked about him in cash games. I'll talk about him again in GPPs, and it's Chris Godwin. I think it's a great week for him. So I'm basically like copying both your picks, but I think Amendola and Godwin are both in great spots, and I needed to think for myself too, so I went with Alshon Jeffrey.
I like it.
Nice. Okay, let's go. Since Lawrence has Amendola pick stolen, Lawrence, I'll give you a first crack at tight ends. Who are you going for?
I mean, honestly, no tight ends that I really want to roster this week. If I can roster no tight ends, that would be the way to go this week. I think if you're paying up, like Darren Waller is very high priced, and you saw that Tyrell Williams kind of took some of his reception equity away last week. Zach Ertz just looks bad, and Dallas Goedert, has been really heating it up a little bit. I think he's been the better tight end than Zach Ertz in Philadelphia, at least the last 3 weeks, maybe even longer. Yeah, I just don't really want to roster a tight end this week.
It's ugly. It's really ugly.
I don't want to pay up for Kelsey against Minnesota. Waller's really high price. Hunter Henry 6K now.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we can go with Dallas Goedert. The thing with playing someone like Dallas Goedert is like he's been seeing the targets. He has a pretty decent floor. I don't know about his ceiling, but dude's got 2 touchdowns his last 2 games and 9 targets. And at 3,100, I guess you don't really need much. And he's cheap enough that he won't kill you if he only gets you 5 or 6 points. So I'd rather only get 5 points for my tight end at 3,100 than get 5 points for my tight end at 6K. So Dallas Goedert is my GPP play for the week.
Nice, like that. I'll go second. Essentially, whoever is healthy from Tampa Bay, and if OJ Howard's healthy, I'll lock him in. If Cameron Braid is healthy, I'll lock him in. If they're both playing, I may just double down on your Dallas Goedert pick.
So how has rostering Tampa Bay tight ends been treating you all this year?
Like trash, but I'd rather pay down right now for a tight end, and if I get a touchdown or 2 from them, that's fine. I don't know. I could pay up and go Hunter Henry at 6K. I like him the most, or Darren Waller. I don't know. I have to decide. Honestly, I'm like an unknown right now. I just have to see. So, you know what? Ryan Griffin had a great game last week. I may just fire him up, against Miami. Why not?
Are you not scared that Chris Herndon's back?
Is he actually back, or is he still is he questionable, or is he? I mean, what's the deal with him?
He got in a limited practice today, so generally that means they'll probably.
Okay.
So
he has a doubtful tag. Oh,
wait, they still do doubtful tags in NFL? I thought it was only questionable now.
No, they don't do doubtful.
Mahomes has a doubtful tag.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if
I get them confused all the time.
If Herndon is still out, I'll go with Ryan Griffin. Otherwise, I'm a TBD. So Drew, who's your pick for tight end?
I'm gonna stick with Hunter Henry. I know his price has shot up, but if you look at the last 2 weeks, what area has Green Bay been exposed? It's been against the tight ends. Yeah, they played against the 2 highest priced ones, Kelsey and Waller, but both of those guys have had really, really nice games the past 2 weeks, so why not make it a third with Hunter Henry this week? They have really excellent corners. Keenan Allen can get open against anyone, so I'm not concerned about that, but I expect Hunter Henry to get a lot of work in the middle of the field, and since I'm so in on Phillip Rivers, that yardage has to come from somewhere, and I think Hunter Henry will be the main beneficiary of that this week.
All right.
Defenses, I think same theory applies to cash. I mean, I'm just going to probably pick the Redskins or something. It's actually not a bad play, but if anyone else has a GPP play for defense, go for it. Otherwise, we can go on to our gambling section.
Do you, Drew?
I don't really have a particular play. I'm probably going to stick with the Steelers just because they've had 5 or 6 weeks in a row where they've hit double digits and they're 2,400. I know the Colts' offensive line is excellent, but ever since they got Minkah Fitzpatrick, this defense has completely changed, and they've gotten very friendly for fantasy. So I'll take them at 2,400.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably sticking with the Redskins. I mean, we'll see what really fits. I've got no problem if you want to. Uh, I think this could be definitely an opportunity that Baker Mayfield's traveling to Denver now, and my Denver defense might cause Baker Mayfield to see some ghosts too. Uh, Chris Harris, pick six, waiting to happen.
Very possible.
I like it. All right. That wraps up our cash and GPP DraftKings plays. Let's go on to our spread picks. So last week, what did we go? Did we go 2-1, 1-2? What
Did
was
you
the
guys win?
I
Uh,
did not win, so
I think I won. I had
you're
the
over
over in
it,
the
I believe.
Tampa Tennessee game.
I'm sure that went over.
That
Yeah, you
was it was like
games
46 or
over.
something.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
think I had. Wait, you had Tampa, Tennessee. They didn't even play each other, did they?
No, they did.
Oh, they
No, they
did.
did
Okay, well, I had Tennessee. So
two
did
and
I
one.
win? Did I win or
Yeah,
lose? Tennessee
you.
won.
Yeah, Tennessee won.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. 2-1. All right. So a pretty good bounce back week, all things considered. I think we had an ugly 0-6 week before that. So getting back to our roots. Let's start off with this week. Dhruv, who are you looking at?
Man, this is a tough week. Uh, whew. Give me the Jets at -3 this week. Um, I think again, I think the Dolphins are actively tanking, so I'm gonna bank on that fact and take them at -3. Take the Jets at -3.
Okay, Jets -3. Locked in. Lawrence, how about you?
Should write that down this time. Jets -3. Yeah. I'm. I don't know why they're gonna do this to me, but like this line for the Chargers and Packers looks absolutely insane. Actually, no, I'm not gonna go there. Uh, yeah. Let's go with the Oakland Raiders. Drew's Oakland Raiders. They did me well last week by not covering. They covered. So I'll take that from them. And I'm going right back to Oakland this week to cover the spread, but this time they actually have to win. But I
Oh,
think Detroit traveling away from their cozy dome into Oakland might not be the easiest play, especially because Detroit's been looking really good. I think they're due for a down week, and Oakland's a really good area for teams to kind of overlook. And Oakland's been a lot better than people thought they were going to be. And I just think this spread, Oakland should be favored by more than 2 points.
I like it. I like it. That's a pick I can get behind.
A lot of Oakland love in this episode. I think they need it after Steph Curry broke his wrist today. So
Yikes.
Well, to be fair, they're now basically the San Francisco Warriors. So
I mean, they're always the Golden State Warriors, but yeah, they moved there. That's the curse, right? Oakland cursed them.
they curse
So
themselves.
yeah.
Who
All
you
right.
got, Yush?
So I'm looking at the Minnesota Kansas City game, and I've got the over on that. What is it on Pinnacle?
I don't think there's a line yet because we don't know if Mahomes is playing, so I don't think you're allowed to bet that yet.
Damn, OddsShark shows at 47, but yeah, there's no basically there's no percentage picks or anything.
Yeah,
Shit.
there's no line because there's no Mahomes is still questionable. You gotta go
Man.
somewhere else.
Just
All
take
right,
it
let's
blind,
see.
dude. Just take it blind.
You're gonna take
Take
it
a blind?
blind?
Yeah, let's take a blind.
All right. So whatever Pinnacle opens at, whenever they announce a starter, you get that line, and we'll confirm it next week when we do our recap.
Okay, that sounds good. First blind pick.
Whatever the over is on Minnesota and Kansas City, that's what you got,
Yeah.
right?
They're gonna open out with 100.
All right. Well, that does it for another episode on the Boardmen Don't Get Paid podcast. Dhruv, Lawrence, always a pleasure. I'll see you guys next week.
Let's win some money this week.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Good bounce back week.
Indeed.
All right. Peace.
All right. See you.